Guardians of the Galaxy, a Vekoma-controlled spinning coaster located at Epcot, is my number 3 coaster overall. This ride is ahead of other world-class coasters in my rankings, such as X2, Ghost Rider, Railblazer, and King Ka. So you may be asking, well, why is it so good? Today's video will be going in-depth into what Cosmic Rewind has to offer, and why it is a world-class coaster. It's been a full 8 months since we last reviewed a coaster, so I'm excited to start off with one of my favorite attractions. When I rode Cosmic Rewind, it was on the virtual queue system. Last week, as of writing this script, it's not on this system anymore. Because I went back then, I only got a single ride on this coaster, so you could take my experience with a grain of salt if you really want to. Honestly, this coaster was the highlight of my trip because of how much it surprised me. Yes, I really enjoyed it more than Velocicoaster.
Hey yo, what the f***?
Another thing to note is that this is on the Christmas overlay. Now this doesn't change anything about the physical coaster at all or the theming, except it plays Christmas music. I don't remember which song I got. I couldn't even remember what I just got off the coaster because I literally wrote in my notes. I forgot the song that I listened to. I also said that the song was very fitting with the time and matched the ride perfectly, so I was very happy with it, so it didn't hinder or boost the experience at all. So starting off with the plaza, it is pretty cool. There's one of the Guardians of the Galaxy ships out front. I don't know my Guardians lore that much, so I don't know what type of ship it is. It's kind of sad because I just finished watching all 3 movies, but hey, I'm not good at memorizing stuff. Now the actual building, well, it's a show building. Disney did somewhat of a good job disguising it. It's not like ultra super well themed like Rise of the Resistance or Flight of Passage or remotely anything close to that, but it doesn't stand out too much because the park is Epcot. It doesn't have any immaculately articulated and themed lands anyways. So you enter the queue line and you are greeted with a circular room. Now honestly, when I went, this room was completely empty and I had no time to soak in the beautiful pre-show. I mean, I saw what the ceiling looked like, but I didn't indulge myself into the ride's lore. Apparently the dome screen is a 30-minute loop, so I don't think you could even watch the whole thing if you wanted to anyways. The rest of the queue line is well themed to futuristic sets. I'm not gonna go into this too deeply. The pre-shows, however, I will talk about them. The first pre-show this ride goes through is one of your more basic ones. It's a screen, and it tells you to put away your phone and all that crap, as well as introduces you to the storyline and how they're going to teleport you in the next pre-show. So you enter the next pre-show, which in essence is a teleporter. You enter the room and it looks one way, and then a second later, the room looks completely different. It's actually a very convincing effect, and I have to say, I took a party with me that had no idea this was going to happen, and it absolutely blew them away. Following the teleportation and normal pre-show and queues, this pre-show uses the same technology as the space screens on Rise of the Resistance, and I have to say, it looks just as good in this setting. The actual content is you get introduced to the villain, and how the jump point that you are supposed to fly through is closing right now. So they rush you out of this room onto the station platform, which is a dual loading platform. I'm honestly not a big fan of the physical appearance of the trains, but the functionality of them is top tier. These trains use lap bars, which are super comfortable, and the back row sits higher than the front row in each car. I highly recommend sitting in the front row for a truly undisputed view, and that means the best row is row 9, which is the second to last row. This is Disney here, so you're going to be talking lightning fast operations, so you should expect nothing less. Well, we finally have made it to talking about the physical ride. The ride starts off with a booster lift hill. One thing that I found super interesting was the transition out of the station to the lift hill was pure butter. There was no kickback or noticeable change in speed. It was just a super chill transition. The entire lift hill, there are multiple screens on the side of the track that explain a little more about the coaster. I personally love this part because the background music kicks in a little and you think, wow, I'm truly riding this masterpiece right now. You then turn through a jump point which has pretty good effects. Following this, you enter a room where you make a 180-degree turnaround a screen. For the POV, I thought the theming looked really half-assed with the screen, but when I rode this, I was pretty satisfied with it. And here's when you turn backwards and hit the launch. This is probably one of the coolest moments of the ride. The launch is surprisingly powerful for Disney, and the fact that it's indoors and backwards, it makes it the coolest thing ever. This is when the actual music kicks in. Like I said, for me, it was Christmas music. One day I'll ride this listening to Everyone Wants to Rule the World, and that might be my favorite, but for now, we have Christmas music. I don't know if this happens directly after this launch, but this coaster hits a top speed of 60 miles per hour. That is incredibly fast, especially because you are indoor. For perspective, that's how fast Kumba goes, and this coaster is completely indoors. That's insane. It's almost to the point where it's hard to call this a family coaster, and this is probably the reason why I convince you this coaster is world class. It goes 60 miles per hour completely indoors. That's literally crazy. It's pure insanity. Anyways, I'm not going to go too crazy in depth for the actual layout because, well, it's all indoor coaster and it's hard to tell what is happening, and I would just be describing turn after turn after turn. The highlight moments of this coaster are the helixes around the planets. Unlike Space Mountain, there are physical planets that are present throughout the ride. There are a few times where you hit a helix going around the planets. The train spins, so you face towards the planet as you hit the helix, and you are delivered with a good dosage of positive Gs. This is a crazy element that is super well themed and also delivers amazing forces. The theming in general is pretty amazing. You probably have heard this before, but this coaster is a modern Space Mountain. I feel like everything about this ride is just an improvement from Space Mountain. The stars are a bit more crisp, the coaster is glass smooth, you have planets, tons of screens. All these add to a better visual experience, and the coaster elements, well, it's way better than Space Mountain. One thing that's super unique about this coaster is that it's the longest indoor coaster in the world. So that means beyond the first lift and launch, there is a little more to the coaster. During the middle of this ride, there is another booster wheel lift hill, but you don't even notice it. You just fly straight up it, continuing at an insanely fast speed that you were already flying at. This makes for such a long coaster that it is so enjoyable to ride. The ride duration of this is 3 minutes and 10 seconds. I don't know how much of this is the prime ride time, but a majority of it is because this coaster just keeps on going. You think it's close to ending, but it's not, and you just keep flying through space. It's really cool. Now it's time to give my generally broad thoughts on this coaster. It's a modern Space Mountain. That's literally the best way to put it. Everyone else says this, so I'm going to say it too, also because it is true. The stars just look more crisp, the music adds so much, and the screens and planets add an extra thing to look at beyond just the coaster. This is incredibly long and just a super enjoyable ride. It's so much better than Space Mountain and Magic Kingdom, and kind of better than Space Mountain at Disneyland. It took every complaint I have about Space Mountain and just improved upon it in every way possible. Now for criticism, I don't have too much to say, but there's always things wrong with the coaster. The first turnaround, the backwards launch, it feels a little cheap for Disney theming. You see the screen and it's just a black room. It's kind of pathetic in my opinion. My other complaint is the storyline is super hard to follow when you are on the coaster. I know it has something to do with fighting an evil force and flying through jump points, but it is really hard to track amid all the chaos. I don't mind it because the coaster is top tier, but it is an issue that is present. Now, why do I think this is the best Disney ride? Well, there are a lot of reasons. As much as I love Disney and theming, I still am a thrill seeker, and this coaster provides just enough thrill for me to be thoroughly satisfied. And when you add theming to an already thrilling enough experience, then boom, you have the chemical formula for an elite ride. That is why Velocicoaster is my number one. I also just love indoor coasters in general. The feeling of flying around indoors and not being able to see anything just blows my mind. Even with the bad coasters like Skull Mountain and Dark Knight, the added effect of being indoors just makes me enjoy a coaster so much more than I do. And also, I am very attracted to the idea of flying through space. By no means do I want to be an astronaut, but it's such a foreign concept that I just love the idea of freely flying through it. This is something that no other Disney ride provides. The closest is Indiana Jones at Disneyland, and that still is far behind. So because of how good a coaster and how good of a ride Cosmic Rewind is, it's the best Disney ride, it's an elite coaster, and it's world class. That's all for today's video, guys. Let me know if you agree with my decisions in the comments section below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.